Check, check, check. Here, let me make sure it's... Okay. We're good. It's been a couple weeks, hasn't it? Last week we didn't have slides for the singers. It's got to be the devil, I tell you. Jewel-encrusted thing of beauty on the throne. Who really rules? Who is really Lord? Who's really in charge? God is. Then chapter 5, we're introduced to the one that he hears as a lion, but he sees a lamb. This one standing, though slain, though bloody, standing, and again, worthy of worship. This centering vision that helps them see a world that right now doesn't look like their world. Their world, Babylon rules. Their world, Caesar sits on the throne, and they are under threat by the one who rules. We are now into chapter 6, and we're kind of into what we would say is really the drama of Revelation. We have 4 horsemen, beasts, wild things, and dragons, oh my, right? Like just all of these characters and things that appear, and some really hard stuff. This is the part, so far, like in Revelation, we're like, hey, this hasn't been so bad. I'm not sure why I was so intimidated by this book. This is good stuff. Well, we've got some hard stuff coming, right? And we're going to have to work through some of that stuff. And for Revelation really to be helpful, useful to, in particular, that church that lived in that time, it has to deal with hard stuff, hard questions. So let's start with some hard questions, okay? Number 1, do we want justice in our world? Yes or no? I asked it as a yes or no question. They always say don't ask closed. Yeah. Do we want justice in our world?
Yes.
All right. All right. In thinking about justice, usually justice is thought of as scales. There is the wounded, the hurt, the one who has been inflicted with injury, been harmed, and then we have the one who has done the harm, done the inflicting. And a lot of times when we think of apocalyptic literature, they think in big ideas, right? We have team dragon, team lamb, like A, B, like 2 choices. In much the same way as we read the story, we're kind of confronted with there is evil and good. There is wickedness and goodness and righteousness. So if we want justice in our world, the question becomes this: should evil face consequences? How would you answer? That's another closed question. Should evil face consequences? Why or why not, or how? Thoughts?
You would want it to.
What's that?
You would want it to.
We wouldn't want it to because...
Justice.
So, Mike, are you saying we wouldn't want evil to have consequences?
We do.
We
Want
do?
it to.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it feels like there should be some sort of result, some sort of consequence, right? Are consequences bad or good? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, to me, it seems like a lot of times we think justice is punishment.
Okay.
You know.
Mm-hmm. What is justice? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking that evil needs consequences, because if I'm the one doing something evil, I'd like to learn from that experience and move towards goodness.
Yeah. When we think of consequences, I mean, we all deal with consequences every day, don't we? I mean, every single one. Young, old, middle-aged. Usually we use it in some way to teach our children, like if you do this, there's a consequence. Like a lot of times that they talk about natural consequences, right? You did this, well, now there's a consequence. Like the world's full of consequences. If I just stop showing up for work, would there be a consequence? Right? Like we know there are consequences built into our world. So we understand consequences is something we maybe know should be there, and that they do help us and they help us learn. And so to say that evil should face consequences, and maybe it speaks into that difference between a punishment or like a punitive kind of act and one of correction, right?
Yeah, because if you didn't show up to work,
Yeah,
the consequences is you don't get paid.
right.
But wonder if they're going to punish you for that too,
Yeah,
in a different way.
yeah, they come take my house.
Yeah, something, that.
Yeah.
that we see, the courts have the justice. They're gonna assign the punishment.
And right now, we could argue, and I'm not gonna get into this, but the American justice system is sometimes one of punishment. Rather than correction, rather than rehabilitation might be the word we use in that context, right? So on one hand, we understand that evil, there should be consequences, that there should be a result, and that our hope would be that those consequences would steer evil towards goodness, right? In our own lives, in the lives of our kids, in our world, in our communities. All right. So let me ask this question, and I know this is, it's another, man, I should have thought about these questions. Do we want evil to be destroyed? Yeah.
Well, when you say evil, like what is the definition of evil? What, like that, because
Yeah.
that's very subjective. Like,
Okay.
my opinion of what's evil may not be the same as the person next to me.
That's very true. Rome didn't think they were evil. Babylon did not think they were evil. Right? Somebody who says, I'll take all the money, I'm not going to leave any for you, thinks they're fine.
So it's who's the judge?
Right? Who's the judge? Who is the judge? Right? Like that is a question. That's a question that this story answers. Evil is another thing. Like, is evil a thing? Is evil a person? Is evil a power? Is evil, what is evil? What does it mean for evil to be destroyed, right? When you destroy something, it no longer exists, right? I destroy it. If you have cancer, we want to destroy it, right? We're going to blast it with radiation and medication and hope that thing shrivels up and dies, right? We want to destroy it. Do we want evil to be destroyed?
I mean, if it's in a person, that we don't consider the person entirely evil. I mean,
Yep.
unless they're maybe like Hitler or a serial killer or some other people I can think of right now. But in a person, we assume like for there to be good underneath it or something like
Yeah.
that. And I think in most cases it is, but I think if it's like an evil force overall, sort of like what you're talking about is this sense of empire or a hurricane that's destroying people or something like that that seems objectively, yeah, I think we want to destroy that.
Okay, all right. So there's a tension there between evil is often perpetrated by humanity, but we recognize that in every human, there is more than just that evil action, right? We recognize that tension and that struggle. But if you're in the midst of being subjected to evil and injustice, how do you sort that out? Big questions, right? Big questions. What does it mean if we want evil to be destroyed? What does it mean for those who are perpetrating evil? Right? Because now that is the difference. What does that mean? How do we navigate that? And I guess maybe the big question in all of this is, what should God's role be in establishing justice, bringing about consequences to evil, seeing evil come to an end? Maybe that feels better than destroyed. We want evil to come to an end. We want it to have had its day and no longer have power. Like, these are the things we want to see happen. And if that is what we want justice. We want evil to come to an end. We want consequences so that things change and things don't keep going the way they are. What is God to do about all of this? What is God's role in it? These are hard questions. All right? And I'm going to tell you right now that even though we're going to dig through this, there's still going to be hard stuff. And we're going to navigate that and try to walk through it. But those are the kinds of things, the kinds of questions that the people at this time were dealing with. I'm living under empire. I look out my window and I see evil. I see pain. I see suffering. Will it ever come to an end? Do I want God to bring it to an end? How will that happen? What will it look like? All right, we're starting a very large section of Revelation. Chapters 6 through 16, almost half of the entire book, makes up what we would generally say are the stories or the actions of judgment. I didn't use that word judgment. Consequences feels less harsh than judgment, but we'll talk about that in a second. So it's multiple chapters. Each of these sections, there's 3 sections of 7. So there are 7 seals, there are 7 trumpets, there are 7 bowls, and there are 3 of these groups of 7. In the midst of all of these seals and trumpets and bowls are these interludes that we've talked about before, these interruptions. Like just in the middle of what's happening, these interruptions, these interludes. And Craig Koester talks about it in his book, that Revelation, in particular this part of Revelation, we shouldn't see it as linear, like it's a series of events, A, then B, then C, then D, then E, and work through it, and like that's how it works, like a timeline. He sees it more of a spiraling. Like we're going to go through this sequence, we're going to experience it, we're going to go through the sequence again, and we're going to go through the sequence again. Not to say it all happens 3 times, but to kind of deliver that. We'll talk more about that. So there's this spiraling of events. This is what Craig says. Those who read Revelation as a whole encounter visions that alternatively threatens and assures them. With increasing intensity, the visions at the bottom of the spiral threaten the reader's sense of security by confronting them with horsemen that represent conquest, violence, hardship, death, and seemingly insufferable adversaries, impossible to overcome, who oppose those who worship God in Christ. Nevertheless, each time the clamor of conflict becomes unbearable, readers are transported into the presence of God, the Lamb, and the heavenly chorus. These visions appear at the top of the spiral. They function differently, but they serve the same end, which is that readers might continue to trust in God and remain faithful. 3 sets of 7. Gets really, really hard, and then suddenly we're in the throne room. It gets really, really hard, and then suddenly we're in the throne room. These 3 sets are meant to say that whatever the Lamb is doing in this section of the story, whatever is happening here, it's being done fully, perfectly, completely, right? This number 7. So that's kind of where we're going. To help us think through these next multiple chapters, I want to read 4 things that Michael Gorman talks about in his book on Revelation that I think kind of create guideposts for us as we read these hard passages. So, number 1, Revelation's visions of judgment do not ultimately conflict with the central and centering vision of God and the Lamb in chapters 4 and 5. It's a presupposition that Michael Gorman makes. We have chapters 4 and 5. That's the center. We read the rest from that perspective, from that center. If we read 6 through 16 and we suddenly come out at the end thinking Jesus is not the lion that is a lamb, we're reading and understanding it wrong. Right? Later he says it this way: Christ is the lion who reigns as the lamb, not in spite of being the lamb. God reigns as the lamb. Jesus did not live and die as a lamb, but then rule as a lion. The lion is the lamb. That's true through the whole thing. Number 2, Revelation's visions of judgment on evil, especially the evil of imperial idolatry and oppression, should be understood as symbols rather than depictions of divine activity. All right? So this section is symbols. It's not direct activity. And we've said this. Apocalypse is still apocalypse. We had Jesus with 7 horns. Does Jesus have 7 horns? Like, have we ever encountered him when Jesus showed up with 7 horns and looked like a lamb with wool? Like, no. Like, it's a symbol, right, to help us understand who God is. It doesn't stop being symbolic when we get to chapters 6 through 16. Apocalypse is still apocalypse. It is highly symbolic, if not exclusively symbolic. So McKnight says that these judgments are unrealistic enough for us to think of them more in terms of literary fiction, if not fantasy. Right? If we take it literally, the earth and the people of earth are destroyed multiple times over. Just like keep being destroyed and then destroyed. Like, it's not literal. That's not the point. So we know it's not literal. We can read it and we should immediately think, well, this can't be literal. It must be something else. You know, Jesus doesn't actually have 7 horns. We don't actually see a horse that is red coming out of heaven with a sword. We're not going to see it. Bruce Metzger says that this is symbolism at its highest. Never shall we see the white horse or a sword projecting from the mouth of a conqueror or birds gorged on human flesh. These depictions are not of real events, but symbols of what reality looks like. These are not real events. I grew up in a world where we literally thought these things would happen. The sun's going to turn black, right? Rivers are going to, all of those things. Michael Gorman says this: these visions create a literary, rhetorical, and emotional experience of shock and awe, not primarily to cause fear, but to wake us up for those who are sleeping, not merely through life, but through empire. Wake up. How do you help people see an evil that they become blind to? How do you help them recognize it when they live in the midst of it and it's become normal? You tell a story. It's what you do. David and Bathsheba, right? Prophet comes along and says, let me tell you a story about a lamb. And suddenly David gets it. Because you tell a story, even a fantastical one. That's why we're drawn to Lord of the Rings or Wicked. Right? A fantastical story of animals that talk and winged monkeys and a wizard that traveled to another land and magic and all of these things. And it's telling true stories of what does it mean to belong? What does it mean to be a part of our world? Should we leave it? Should we abandon it? Should we fight for it? All of those lessons are in the story of Wicked. Lord of the Rings, what is evil? What happens? Can anyone carry evil for very long without letting it affect them? We tell stories. We make evil as ugly as possible and as threatening as possible. We tell stories. This is an apocalyptic story. It is story, it is exaggerated, it is symbol. Number 3. Revelation's visions of judgment symbolize God's penultimate, next to last, rather than ultimate, final activity in human history. This judgment is not the end of the story, these passages. That is, judgment is a means to an end, the goal being eschatological, the end, salvation. The creation of a new heaven, new earth, in which humanity realizes its true reason for being is reconciled people flourishing together in the presence of God and the Lamb. There's an end, and it's that everybody enters into this thriving relationship with one another and with God. This section is not the end. This section, this drama, the stories that unfold, that John weaves together, are meant to make us feel like all is lost. Everything is crumbling. It's all falling apart. How can anything come out of this? Only then to show us it's not the end. It's not the final. Everything isn't completely broken. Everything isn't completely lost. It's not. It's not the final act of God in the story. And number 4, Revelation's long, detailed visions of judgments are not intended primarily for Babylon, but for the church. John is projecting high-definition images with the volume fully turned up, proclaiming, Babylon is doomed. Nothing is more certain. As in all rhetoric, the repetition is for emphasis, and the message is one of both promise and warning. If we don't read it and recognize that this was for a church living in empire, and the message is, Babylon will not rule forever, evil will not endure, evil will come to an end, then we miss the point of what this is saying. So those are maybe kind of things to kind of guide us through these sections. The Lamb is still the Lamb and stays the Lamb and never stops being the Lamb, right? These judgments are symbolic. They're meant to help us understand in grandiose ways that God is bringing evil to an end and establishing justice. All of these things help guide us. All right. One last thing to consider before we dig in these next several weeks. These images of judgment are harsh. They're extreme. There's no getting around it. I could just skip those bits and jump to the bits I like. And it might be nicer, but they're in here, right? And they're harsh, and they're hard, and they feel cataclysmic. Rob Bell says this about Revelation. The reality is there is evil in the world, and it is opposed to human thriving. If you live in a village where the military is coming in, arresting people, burning homes, do you need someone to sit down next to you and say, well, life is like a box of chocolates? Right? He asks the question, what kind of letter do you write to that person? What story would you tell? Rabel says this, you need encouragement, but it has to be encouragement that matches the intensity of the evil that you are really experiencing. We don't need any subtle, soft encouragement. It has to match the intensity of the world and suffering and struggle that they're living in the midst of. So John paints a picture of evil that cares only about itself, that humanity is a commodity, it's monstrous, it's destructive, and it's beastly. And this section says God is not okay with it. God's not fine. God's not going to sit down and say life's like a box of chocolates. You just never know what you're going to get. N.T. Wright suggests this, that the intensity of the imagery in these sections is what it is like to go to therapy for the first time. I'm struggling, I have anxiety, I want peace, I'm going to go, I'm going to talk to a therapist, they're going to fix it. Right? Right? And then you go and you find out, well, no, but first you got to dig. Like you got to get into stuff deep, you have to get into your past, stuff that's causing pain, things hidden even from ourselves. We're going to watch a quick clip from a movie we watched in one of our movie nights that kind of paints this picture. We're going to see if we can make this work.
So, what brings you in today?
Well, I broke up with the guy I was seeing. At least I think we broke up. I'm just wondering if there was something I could have done. And I'm hoping this will help.
Got it. We'll see what we can do.
Thanks. This office is super nice.
It's my teacher's office, but I get to use it to do my hours.
Oh, how many hours do you need?
3,000.
Wow, that's a lot of hours. Oh man, okay. Wait, how many have you done?
As far as private one-on-one hours go, I'd say I've done about 12.
Wow. Cool. That's great. You're really on your way then.
Yeah.
You know, I was kind of hoping that we could do this all in one session. I don't know if that's possible. I don't make a lot of money, but I talk really fast. That's what people tell me, so I can help.
Why don't you give me your history in your own words and we can go from there?
Where should I start?
A lot of people like to start at the beginning.
Oh. Okay. All right, beginning. All right, okay. Let's do it. So my mom got into drugs when I was about 4 years old and she left us. No one really knows where she is. And despite what my father says, I'm pretty sure it's not entirely my fault. I was only locked in there for like 24 hours. It wasn't like a huge deal. It wasn't like I was gonna die in that time period or anything like that. So it was totally okay, and I understood why he did it. You know, it got dark and scary, so I ended up finding my way back home just in time for dinner. And I made us his favorite macaroni and cheese. I was in shock. It was like I had never seen anything like that. I was frozen. It's like I've seen it in movies, but I bet it's really cathartic to smash things and to swipe things off a table. I mean, I bet it is, right? I mean, I was only 10 years old, so what do I know? And then that was when I decided to run away with my life savings of $9 from weed pulling. I started down that road. I was gone the whole day. I'm pretty sure Dad didn't even notice that I was gone. You know, I got away before anything really happened. Yeah, and plus I was wearing a skirt, so it was kind of my fault. And I hit this growth spurt, so the skirt was really short. I looked a lot older than what I actually am. So yeah, now I just wear pants. So I guess that brings us here, or at least to the beginning of my adult life. I'm sorry. Are you okay? gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Excited.
It's gotta get into the hard stuff. You can't fix things quickly. We recognize this in life, that we are not this singular moment. There is a past and it's hard, right? You go to therapy, you gotta bring it all up. This is what N.T. Wright suggests. He's like, unless we lay out the problems to their full extent, no real healing can take place. Unless the ills of the world are put on full display and allowed to do their worst, they cannot be truly overthrown. It's going to be laid out in full. The whole thing. All the way back. The deepest part, the widest part. I want to make clear, knowing that it's symbolism, knowing that it's exaggeration and fantasy language doesn't erase the discomfort of these passages, but we're going to try to understand what John is trying to do. There is evil, there is pain, there is suffering, and John lays it all out to its fullest extent. So here we are, the 7 seals. We're going to start in chapter 6. We're going to cover 6 of the seals, and then we're going to cover the next section next week. I was actually planning to do it in 1 week, and as we can already see, like that's not going to happen. So this is Revelation 6, 1 through 8. Then I looked on as the Lamb opened one of the 7 seals. I heard one of the 4 living creatures say in a voice like thunder, "Come." So I looked, and there was a white horse. Its rider held a bow, was given a crown, and he went forth from victory to victory. When the Lord opened the 2nd seal, I heard the 2nd living creature say, "Come." Out came another horse, fiery red. Its rider was allowed to take peace from the earth so that people would kill each other. He was given a large sword. When he opened the 3rd seal, I heard the living creature say, "Come." So I looked, and there was a black horse. Its rider held a balance for weighing in its hand. I heard what sounded like a voice from among the 4 living creatures. It said, "A quart of wheat for a denarian, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarian, but don't damage the olive oil and the wine." When he opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th creature say, "Come." So I looked, and there was a pale green horse. Its rider's name was Death, and the grave was following right behind. They were given authority over 1/4 of the earth to kill by sword, famine, disease, and the wild animals of the earth. These are the what? What do we call these 4 horses? 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. We know these horses. It shows up in songs and other movies. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The white horse is the first horse. This is a horse that is on military conquest. It is archers riding on horseback. There was only one nation in the 1st century that rode on horseback with bows. It was the Parthians. They were to the east of the Roman Empire. 3 times Rome tried to overthrow the Parthian Empire, and each time they were defeated. One of the very few empires that could withstand the assault of Rome. And Rome carried, what was their weapon of choice? Does anybody know? Sword, right? And we all know that a bow is going to outdo a sword. We have an example of this in a very important movie called Indiana Jones. We'll see if this advances. Oh, hold on. It was going and it... Horsemen, archers. It's hard to fight them with swords. There's called the Parthian shot. It's actually like a known shot in archery. It's now called the parting shot. It's when they're riding in retreat, but then turn around and shoot backwards at the enemies who are now chasing them because they think they've won. This empire was one of the few empires that could stand up to Rome. This first horse exposes this fear that what if another nation comes in and takes us over? Certainly Rome has done that. You're home, you have your own place, Rome comes in, conquers. representing this fear of conquest. The red horse comes and it says to take peace from the earth. This writer undermines peace. Any peace that is experienced is a fake peace. This is that Pax Romana, the peace of Rome that comes at the end of the sword. This red horse carries not a bow, but a sword. So most people think this horse represents Rome. And in taking peace from the people, it says they kill each other. Right? So this threat of violence is different than that foreign nation that's different and fights different and looks different. This is killing each other, killing one another. This is the threat of violence from within your own people, within your own government, within your own nation. And we know that your own nation can be a threat to you. Right? We see that on TV. The red horse. The black horse represents economic hardship. It has these scales, right? It says a quart of wheat for a denarian, 3 quarts of barley for a denarian, but don't damage the olive oil and the wine. A quart of wheat would have been enough to feed one person for a day. Barley was like a lower sustenance food source, so you could get 3 quarts, and that could feed a small family. The picture that's being painted is you work all day, at the end of the day, I can feed myself, and that's it. Rome sets the prices of food in this time. So this price is actually 8 to 15 times what it should be. Like Rome is ripping people off, and they can't afford to feed their families. This is poverty, this is struggle, this is opening the fridge and there's nothing there. But don't damage the olive oil and the wine. Who do we think was partaking in wine? The peasant family? Nope. Rome, the officers, the elite were partaking in wine. So basically, raise the price of wheat, but just make sure that like the rich can still afford their wine. Like don't touch that. This is economic unfairness. It's again, we often think that but anyway, this is what this is. Economic hardship. Again, we see this today, right? Prices go up. The pale green horse. This is death, famine, disease. Again, violence. And these are not some future predictions. These are the lived realities of their world. If they could turn on the news, they would see violence is everywhere. That death comes for everyone. These 4 horsemen represent, we've already said it earlier, military conquest, violence and killing, economic hardship, and death. The 4 horsemen. Most commentaries see these 4 horsemen as representative of imperial Rome. This is Rome. This is Michael Gorman, God's judgment takes the form of imperial practices themselves, or the consequences of such practices. War, famine, disease, death, injustice in the marketplace, and rebellion are all portrayed in chapters 6 through 20. All are human evils rather than cosmic or divine events. This first rush of judgment, consequence if you will, is brought on by evil itself. So Gorman says this, it is not therefore because imperial power and lamb power coexist in God that wrath descends from God's throne, but because when humans reject lamb power, they experience it as imperial disaster, disordered desires, death, and destruction. When we choose Babylon, we face the consequences of Babylon. McKnight doesn't like the word judgment. Scott McKnight, he sees these as disciplines. They're not punitive, they're consequence. This is what happens when Rome rules. Today, it looks like this. Ecological destruction, drilling, data centers, the arms race, irrational consumerism that leads to sweatshops and children working overseas to make our shoes, slave labor, the idolatrous logic of the market which says the bottom line matters most, irrational use of technology. I mean, who knows what AI is going to do? We've seen it even here locally, that a team can use AI and bring harm to people. Irrational use of our natural resources. We see it all around. When empire rules, things are destroyed. Things fall apart. Each horseman comes what seems at the invite of the living creatures. There's this come command. Is God forcing them to act? Some commentaries, most commentaries see it as, Brad Jerzak and others, as permission. And we see this pattern throughout Scripture. Brad Jerzak talks about God's wrath being a handing over. It's not God's activity, but God's allowing. To not act, or to act and to end it, would require God to become like empire. Stop or else. Right? You better stop or else the sword. You better stop or else this. So these are the activity of imperial power. We see it later. The angels are holding back the winds that bring harm to the earth. And then eventually they say, okay, I'll stop holding it back. We'll let it happen. So another thought that comes into this. So these trials come, and we know that Christians suffer too in these trials. Christians are going to suffer through these tribulations, these trials. And if we understand that God would not be doing this to Christians, He's the one that's supposed to be protecting them, delivering them, rather than oppressing them, again, we can understand that these are acts not of God, but of Rome, imperial power, empire. The wages of sin is death. God's gift is eternal life. The horseman brings death. God offers a crown of life. We shouldn't equate the two. Right? Eugene Peterson says this when thinking specifically about the red horse. For a time, writ large in the headlines, war is perceived as an evil. There are prayers for peace, but not for long, for it quickly is glamorized as patriotic or rationalized as just. But war is a red horse, bloody and cruel, making life miserable and horrid. The perennial ruse is to glorify war, so that we accept it as a proper means of achieving goals, but it is evil. It is opposed by Christ. Christ does not sit on the red horse ever. God does not sit on the red horse ever. These are not, some people read Revelation, they say, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to become the four horsemen of the apocalypse. It's not the case. Judgment comes out, imperial power reigns, and we see death, destruction, harm, economic injustice. The fifth seal. It says, when he opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar those who had been slaughtered on account of the word of God and the witness they had given. They cried out with a loud voice, Holy and true Master, how long will you wait before you pass judgment? How long before you require justice for our blood, which is shed by those who live on earth? Each of them was given a white robe. They were told to rest a little while longer until their fellow servants, brothers and sisters, were also killed as they were before it is finished. Suffering is real. Persecution is real. Many have been killed. Many more will be. We're going to talk about Nero at some point. Nero crucified Christians. He fed them to wild animals in the Colosseum. He burned them alive. The people living at this time have these pictures in their mind. They know people who have died, and these voices cry out. Can Christians cry out for justice? Is it appropriate for a Christian to say, God, when will justice reign? When will you make things right? How long before you require justice for the blood that was shed? Shouldn't we just turn the other cheek? What does it mean? Coaster says this, one rightly asks in this suffering, does God care? Does genuine love turn a blind eye while the wicked shed the blood of the innocent? Or I like this one. Or is mercy just another name for indifference? God, do you care? How long? This is, you already saw it, naked pastors, the most sincere prayer. God, dear God, like WTF, like how long? Do you see what's happening? This is a bold prayer. This is a psalm-like prayer. How long before you require justice? These prayers have been prayed over generations. Black slave raped by their master, their child as soon as they're born, pulled from their arms and sold into slavery somewhere else. How long? Right? A child whose mother or father has left them, and it just feels like it keeps happening. Somebody else leaves them. Somebody else leaves them. Somebody else leaves them. God, how long? Right? A parent whose child died in a war overseas because of oil. How long? The parent of a transgender child who took their life because someone told them they should. They cry out for justice. How long? Will you require justice? Do you see this? Does it matter? Do you care? Will you make it right? A wife who's being abused by her husband but stays because the church tells her she should. Praying, probably quietly, how long? How long? A single parent working 60 hours comes home and there's not enough food to eat to feed her kids. How long? A teen being bullied at school. They look different, they talk different, they dress different, they are different. How long? This prayer has been prayed over and over and over and over again, all around the world. If we've never prayed this prayer, I think we should count ourselves lucky. I don't know, blessed. I don't know what the right word is. But there are people who pray this every day. God, it's too much. God, it's been going too long. Will it ever end? These prayers of the people of God, even those who have died, are suddenly, once again, like that bowl of incense in the throne room. God, how long? They're given a white robe, which has been a promise that we already saw. These white robes mean purity, victory. And God basically says, hold on a little longer. It's not over yet. Just a little while longer. We sing a song. We're going to sing it. It won't be long. It won't be long. Hold on. More will suffer. More will die. But hold on. It isn't over yet. The last seal that we're going to look at this morning, the sixth seal, and then we have an interlude and the seventh seal next week. I looked on as he opened the sixth seal, and there was a great earthquake. The sun became black as funeral clothing. The entire moon turned blood red. The stars of the sky fell to the earth. Fig trees dropped its fruit when they were shaken by a strong wind. The sky disappeared like a scroll being rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved from its place. Cosmic language, right? Some of this makes sense. We've talked about earthquakes multiple times as we read about these cities. But there's more here going on. The sky being rolled back, sun turning black, wind knocking all of the produce from all of the trees. This is cosmic level events. And this kind of language is used in Scripture in the Old Testament. It's a way of kind of saying, like, earth-shattering events. Things that change the world. Turmoil, political turmoil, financial turmoil. You think of the Great Depression, when everything collapses. Think of the Berlin Wall and it falling down. What does that mean? Think of the atom bomb being dropped. What did that do to our world? How did it change our world? It's like the sky being rolled up, the sun going black, the moon turning blood red. Earth-shattering events, turmoil. And it pulls everyone in. It goes on. Then the kings of the earth, the officials and the generals, the rich and the powerful, and everyone, slave and free, hid themselves in caves and in the rocks of mountains. They called out to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of the one seated on the throne and from the Lamb's wrath. The great day of their wrath has come, and who is able to stand? All right, a couple things. The martyrs, who did they call out to? Who are their prayers being offered to? They offer it to God, right? God, how long? This group of people, and there's a contrast here, and we'll see the contrast more in the next section again. They do not call out to God, they call out to the rocks. I'd rather die. Then we could maybe say it this way. If we could paraphrase it and rewrite it, I'd rather die than turn to this God. Right? Bring what you will. May the rocks fall on me and kill me. Rather than call out to God. End it now. And until now, we've assumed the poor and the powerless are the ones that are suffering. But here we see kings and princes, the rich, the powerful, succumb to violence of the world. Violence is an equal opportunity employer. It comes after everyone. And we have this word wrath, and we've talked, this is probably a few years ago, where we did a whole Sunday on wrath. I don't know if anybody remembers that Sunday. We read a lot of hard prophetic passages that sound horrible. I think I remember when Ned at one point was like, I don't like that. Like, no. So we have this wrath word again, and we'll talk more about it as we go through this section. But here again, and the word could be translated anger, the Lord's anger. And again, we kind of ask the question, do we want Jesus to get angry at what he sees? I get angry. I've been told you shouldn't get angry. Right? And I think sometimes we misconstrue hate for anger. Where I'm just like, I'm upset, and I'm saying this isn't right, and this is making me upset. And they're like, you're a Christian, you shouldn't get angry. Well, I don't know about that.
He was flipping tables.
Yeah, I think anger is okay, right? Like, anger is okay. We kind of want God to get kind of angry. What makes the Lamb the one who took the violence of the world and endured it, the one who is standing yet dripping with blood and then opening a door to what we've already seen are the nations and tribes and tongues of the world? What would make the Lamb angry?
Apathy.
Empathy would make the Lamb angry. Wait, apathy. Yeah, apathy, yeah.
You said you're a Christian, you shouldn't get angry?
Yeah.
I think that saying now is you're a Christian, you should be angry.
You should be angry, yeah. I think I've said almost basically that, whether to the person or just in my head or when I got back home. I have a problem that you're not angry. That's a problem.
And I think that's when Jesus gets angry.
Jesus is angry. He sees the world, he sees the suffering, he sees greed and power and violence and the sword and the bow threatening his people, his creation, all of it. And God, Jesus, is angry. This is what one commentary says about the wrath of the Lamb, the anger of the Lamb. What makes the Lamb angry? Okay, read my question. This is what makes the Lamb angry. The utter rejection. No, okay, I'm going to read the quote and then I'll figure it out when we get to the end. The utter rejection by love incarnate of all that is unloving. Only those who utterly resist the call of love have any reason to be afraid. What makes God angry? The rejection, the utter rejection of the call of love. That makes the Lamb angry. Makes the Lamb angry. We've talked about wrath. We've already kind of hit it here. That this spilling out of judgment are acts of the imperial powers and those sorts of things. We'll deal with it more as we go. There's too much here to cover it all. But here is the first this is the first section of judgment. And there's more. And I don't know that we're going to, as we go through these chapters, we're going to spend every week talking about every single judgment. Some are repetitive. Some kind of happen more than once. We won't necessarily do that. But I think it's good in this first section to kind of say, what is this judgment? Who is it coming from? What is the power behind it? And to kind of think about some of those things. Next week, we're going to answer the question that the people hiding in caves asked. Who can stand? Who can stand in the midst of this? Who can stand and take it? Who can endure? That question gets answered next week. All right, let's go ahead and pray. God, we're more than willing to admit that at times we struggle with this feeling in us, this desire to see justice, this desire to see things made right, this desire to see harm end, this desire to see suffering end, injustice end, to see people to live, to thrive, to live with one another, to thrive with one another, to thrive with you, God. We desire it, we hope for it, and when we don't see it, God, we struggle to know what to do. We struggle to know what to even ask for. Is anger appropriate? God, are we allowed to call out how long? God, act, do something. Do you notice? Are you paying attention? That these things are acceptable, these prayers are acceptable. God, that we want evil to come to an end, that we want suffering to come to an end, and we see the consequences of it. Not just in the world of 2,000 years ago, God, we see it in our world. We can turn on the TV, we can see it. Turn on the news, go to Facebook, talk to our neighbors, talk to our friends. And God, we see these horsemen, we see these powers inflicting harm. God, that when our world, when we choose to follow a way other than the Lamb, we see it happen again and again. And there may be times where we think it's for our own benefit, or it's going to give us the things we need, or the things we want. But these stories are warnings that in the end it will not, that it will only bring more suffering, and more pain, and more death. God, help us to see it, to recognize it, and to desire something different. In Jesus' name, amen.
but the water that
wrong? How do we answer that? We have a sign in our house, and it almost got put away. Mary bought some decor at some garage sales, and if you've ever been to our house, there's not a blank shelf or wall. So it usually means something else has to get put away. And there's this sign, and it's based on a song we used to sing a long time ago in church. And it just says, every little thing's gonna be all right? Like, it'll be okay. It's not over yet. This isn't the end of the story. All of this pain and suffering is not the end. Hear me, Babylon is finished. It will not last. It won't be long. So we're gonna sing, Won't Be Long. We'll finish up. How tired are your feet? How broken are your dreams? How hopeless does it seem? How heavy is that weight? How lonely are those days? How long till something breaks? Change is gonna come, and just keep holding on. Change is gonna come. No, it won't be long now. I feel the turn and shift. That burden's gotta live. Tomorrow's worth all this. The sky don't look so blue. The ground is shaking too. But that day is coming soon. When change is gonna come. And just keep holding on. Change is gonna come. But no, it won't be long now. I will be right by you every step of the way. When you cry, I'll cry too. Be the one that'll stay. There'll be joy in the morning when we get to that place. I will be right by you every step of the way. I will be right by you every step of the way. When you cry, I'll cry too. Be the one that'll stay. There'll be joy in the morning when we get to that place. I will be right by you every step of the way. Change is gonna come. And just keep holding on. Change is gonna come. I know it won't be long now. Change is gonna come. And just keep holding on. Change is gonna come. No, it won't be long now. I tried to find a worship song about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and it wasn't there. And it feels like after some kind of like hard stuff, and I really struggled. Mary knows I was struggling yesterday. Like, how do we talk about this? And I was initially going to do both chapters, and there's no way. And so I want to like deal with what's really there and the language that's really there, but I want to end like with this hope, right? Both in worship and in song and in lyric. But as we work through it, to constantly point out, like, this is not the end of the story. Even for those who find themselves in caves praying to mountains, it's not the end of the story for them either. The story continues, and it's grandiose and it's expansive. And next week, we get to see some of that. We see this interlude where we're whisked away from swords and bows and death and famine and disease into a place that is wholly other and immense and crowded and full and compassionate and empathetic, and some of the language we pull from Revelation. So we just couldn't quite get there this week, but I wanted to at least get there in song, right? So thanks for being here. Meeting, if you want to stay, you're welcome to stay. We'll talk about what's coming and plans and all of that stuff. There's food, there's lunch provided, so you're welcome to stay with us, all right? And if you can't, that's okay too.